So welcome back to Jamzilla Studio. This is Jordan with another cool mock. So as you can see, I'm using the powered up system. Here as you can see, I'm controlling it from my phone. And I'm calling this the hover tank because the wheels for it is just really a stand. So this is really the model that I'm building, or rather that I have built, and then this is just to make it move around. And so I'm using the powered up battery box here and using two of the medium powered up motors in a similar configuration to which the Batman version of this came from. So I just have some simple tiles, and I tiled off the battery box as well so that this easily slides on and off of this stand. That so is able to nicely drive around. As you can see. And for when it starts turning, it does need that full momentum because of all of the weight on this. And if I try to turn it without having any of that speed, it really does struggle because of that weight. But if you're moving, you can get it like forward or backwards. You can get this model to actually turn somewhat decently. So now for the details here, you can see that I have wired lights into the cockpit of this vehicle. So I can easily take the cover off just like this, set it off to the side, and you can access the nice interior that I have. So in here I have a hologram table, a weapon rack, you can see all the LEDs shining through the back, and you have the minifigure here with a custom chair, not using normal chair pieces, but I just wanted to make it fit better for any minifigure that has a armor piece, as most of my space troops do. So now they're able to comfortably sit in here, and then there's a control panel with some levers and some printed elements from some Star Wars sets. Otherwise, this is just using a few studs in the back to hold this on, and as well as tiling the rest, making it able to easily pop on and off, and yet be very stable. And then we have some laser turrets on each side that raise up and down. We have some more laser turrets in the front that are stationary. And with the overall shaping, it almost looks like the Millennium Falcon, except for the cockpit is in the middle. So I did draw some inspiration from the Millennium Falcon when getting the shaping for the ship, as it is such an iconic ship, and I like how it looks. And if you're wondering where the battery is, the power of the 4 LEDs in the cockpit, this is where it's held. It's held with a simple panel with some hinges on it. And I'm just powering this using a 9-volt. So it's very good enough just for those 4 LED lights. And then the panel just pops right back on. Pretty simple. And then I just keep on going with the round contours here, and just making sure that around the bottom that I have an opening in the middle for this to kind of open up into, as you can kind of see. It's a little bit difficult to see, but you can kind of get a good look there. And then for these wires, these can be tucked into this little space here. And so when you put this back on, that you don't see those wires. It does take a couple tries to get the wires tucked in properly so that they're not visible, but when they're out of the way, inside of the space I made, it does look fairly clean. So now I'd like to talk about some of the design and what this tank was meant to do, in which this is my massive 7-foot long Voyager's Keep spaceship. And if you haven't seen it already on my channel, I've done a full overview and more on this massive ship. So I'll link that video down in the description below, as well as instructions for a few other MOCs that I announced earlier in the video. So this, of course, is the hover tank, and underneath the Voyage's Keep here, we have a big ramp. And now this vehicle is supposed to go in there. When the ramp lowers, the hover tank is supposed to be able to drive on and off of it. So I'm going to show the ramp lowering after I take these cups out for a long-term displaying, so it doesn't stress out the motors and the Voyage's Keep to lift and lower the ramp. And so we have two different systems in this instance, which is one reason why it didn't work, which I had the powered up system here, and then I have the EV3 system up here inside the Voyage's Keep. So if we quickly move to the IR control, and now this is going to take us a quick minute to raise and lower, and this is just stored in this compartment in here when it's not in use. Otherwise the ramp will lower. So as this time lapse goes through here of the ramp lowering, I just want to mention that I made a hour and 15-minute long video of everything to know about the Voyage's Keep. It'll be linked in the description down below. Now we'll go back to the overview of the hover tank. So now that we have the Voyage's Keep ramped down, you can see that there's quite a lot of space in here in between my army of troops that is marching out right now. And so with the design of this tank, it does fit, like dimensionally. Just gotta be careful while bringing it in there. Not gonna take the base with it here, but it's just as I'm doing this with one hand. As you can see, it does fit within the ramp, but the way it has to be heavy because the design is quite thick to enable all the detail that I wanted on it. It simply didn't end up working, making it too heavy. And then with the wheel portion here, at the angle, it doesn't quite hold very nicely. In fact, easily slips down. If it, yep, you can see now even it is slipping. So this system doesn't quite have enough grip on the ramp at this angle that's required. So probably tank treads is a better option here if I'm going to redesign this, which I likely will while the Voyage's Keep is out. And you can see the problem when this hits the lip of the ramp and onto a table, that it's impossible because this actually hits it here. So that dimensionally needs to change, as well as possibly smoothing this out to actually make it work. So that is why this tank specifically here does not work within the Voyage's Keep, and that I have to redesign tanks for it. And this is actually the first variant. And on another video on my channel, I showed off another tank, which is actually my third attempt, in which also failed, actually being bigger than this, and in the end of it, because I wanted it to have a lot more detail. So I'll link that in the video description below. And then another video that is going to be coming out is going to be on the other tank that I built, being this tank, which, believe it or not, was designed to fit within the ramp over here. But as you can see, this one just exponentially raised the problems that I'm going to have with this design in the RAM. So this will be on the next video in terms of these tanks and how I was designing them for the Voyager's Keep. So now we will get into more specific details of the design on this hover tank. Otherwise, this is it mostly for this overview. But as you can see, it just uses a lot of different slopes to get the shape around the different contours, as well as using some grilled tiles for lots of the greenwood. And you can see some nice snot technique down on the inside there to cover that gap deep down, which gives it a nice look. So this is an overview of my Sci-Fi hover tank that I built back in 2019 using the powered up system when it first came out. And now, once the EV4 stuff comes out, I'll be experimenting with that more. So I just want to briefly pop in the video here and say that instructions are available for the TANTIV 4 stand and the Ninjago set to MOC that I did quite a while ago. And those are going to be linked in the description down below if you are interested in checking those out. And in the future, more instructions will be released for things that I have built already. I just want to further develop those. But for now, I have these two done, and they'll be in the description. So, this is Jordan from Jam's Lego Studio, and thanks for watching.